They may have played the happiest BFFs on TV, but in real life, the cast members of Friends haven't exactly had it easy. We decided to take a look at the cast's darkest and weirdest secrets. Jennifer Aniston was estranged from her mother. For well over a decade, Jennifer Aniston was estranged from her mother, Nancy Dow. The reason? In 1999, Dow published a tell-all book called From Mother and Daughter to Friends, a memoir. Although Aniston claimed in a 2015 interview with The Hollywood Reporter that she and Dow are, quote, all fine now, the Emmy winner admitted things were pretty rough for a while, especially when she was growing up. Aniston explained, quote, she was very critical of me. Because she was a model, she was gorgeous, stunning, I wasn't. I never was. I honestly don't think of myself in that sort of light, which is fine. She was also very unforgiving. She would hold grudges that I found so petty. Dow divorced Aniston's father, Days of Our Lives star John Aniston, in 1980. Meanwhile, Dow was not invited to her daughter's wedding to Brad Pitt in 2000, or her 2015 wedding to Justin Theroux. Jennifer Aniston didn't invite half the cast to her wedding. Also missing from the guest list for Aniston's surprise nuptials to Justin Theroux, half of the cast of Friends. Just days after news hit TMZ, it was revealed that Aniston's co-stars Matt LeBlanc, Matthew Perry, and David Schwimmer didn't get invites. LeBlanc told People, quote, I think she's happy, that's all I care about. If she wanted me there, I would have been there. Matthew Perry admitted to being surprised by the wedding news, saying, quote, it was a surprise to me as well. I wasn't invited. So what can you do? So much for being friends. Matthew Perry battled addiction for years. Matthew Perry has been open and honest about his struggles with substance abuse, which sent him to rehab twice during the peak of Friends' success. But the now sober actor managed to shock us once again when he admitted to BBC Two Radio in 2016 that his addictions caused him to forget filming 3 years of the show. When asked to pick his least favorite episode of Friends, his answer was, well, sobering. Quote, I think the answer is, I don't remember 3 years of it. Matt LeBlanc had 2 DUIs. Speaking to the UK's Telegraph in 2014, LeBlanc let it slip that he's been arrested multiple times in the past for driving under the influence. After discussing his character's DUI arrest in Season 3 of Episodes, he'd revealed that he had gotten busted for driving under the influence twice. He elaborated, quote, when I was young and stupid, I wasn't driving fast, just crooked. The press never got a hold of the mugshots. I was lucky. For his sake, we hope TMZ did not read that interview. Matt LeBlanc surprised his wife with a divorce. In 2006, LeBlanc shocked everyone, including his wife Melissa, when he filed for divorce, and had, quote, hoped for a reconciliation. That turned out to be impossible, though, because LeBlanc was already dating his Joey co-star, Andrea Anders, as early as January. According to People, some allege that LeBlanc's relationship with Anders, whom he had dated for 8 years until they split in 2015, was one of the causes of his divorce. LeBlanc chose not to comment. Matt LeBlanc once got cozy with a stripper. In a surprise twist of events, LeBlanc actually admitted during an interview in 2005 that he had interacted with a, quote, sexually aggressive stripper while on a motorcycle road trip with 5 of his friends in Canada. He told the National Enquirer, quote, the stripper was all over me. I was drinking and she was crossing the line. When I realized the situation that was unfolding, I felt I was being careless and irresponsible and I had to get the hell out of there. Pretty sure that's been said by every guy in a relationship after getting a strip joint lap dance. Courtney Cox mysteriously stopped production of Cougar Town. In 2009, Courtney Cox unexpectedly halted production of her hit ABC sitcom Cougar Town due to what her reps described at the time as, quote, a private family matter. The production hiatus lasted about a week. To this day, the actual family matter was never actually revealed, which is pretty strange. And speaking of strange, Courtney Cox's divorce from David Arquette was kinda weird. Courtney Cox and David Arquette, who met on the set of the 1996 slasher movie Scream, announced that they were separating after 11 years of marriage in 2011. Oddly enough, the couple didn't actually go through with the filing for the divorce until about 2.5 years later and committed to raising their only daughter, Coco. That relationship might explain the delay. Cox told More magazine in 2014, quote, in a divorce, you always have regret. We were married for a long time, so it's not like we didn't try. A happy divorce? Who knew that was possible in Hollywood? Lisa Kudrow got sued by her ex-manager. In 2014, a jury found Lisa Kudrow in breach of contract after a lengthy legal dispute with her former manager, Scott Howard. He claimed Kudrow owed him residuals from when he still managed her. Like, from all those reruns of Friends. He first filed a lawsuit in 2008, and after 6 miserable years, a jury ultimately ruled in Howard's favor. As a result, Kudrow had to fork over $1.6 million. To be fair, that was only a little more than what she made for a single episode of Friends in 2004. But still, ouch. David Schwimmer pissed off his New York City neighbors. Like Ross Geller himself, David Schwimmer's personal life is, how do we put this lightly, kind of boring. However, he did wind up upsetting a whole bunch of his neighbors when he decided to demolish a preserved 1852 townhouse and build a completely new one from scratch. His neighbors eventually got so annoyed with construction that someone actually went and spray painted the words, "Ross is not cool," on a nearby fence. Harsh, but something all fans of Friends have been saying for decades.
The cast of That 70s Show might have been all right in their on-screen smoke circles most of the time, but behind the scenes there was a lingering haze of drama, some of which came to light in 2017 with disturbing allegations about star Danny Masterson during his time on the show. That got us wondering what else the cast might be sweeping under the rug. Of course, not all secrets are created equal. From the serious to the silly, here's a look at some of the other dark secrets the cast of That 70s Show tried to hide. The young one. Ukrainian transplant actress Mila Kunis started landing TV gigs at the tender age of 13, appearing in guest stints on shows like Baywatch and a small recurring role on Seventh Heaven. But while those shows might have been game for working with underage actors, the producers of That 70s Show weren't quite so kid-friendly. She admitted to People that in order to nab the role of Jackie Burkhart on the show at the age of 14, she pretended to be a good bit older than she really was. She said, "I told them I was going to be 18, but I didn't tell them when I was going to be 18. As fate would have it, her first real kiss took place in front of the cameras that year. In character, she planted one on her future husband, Ashton Kutcher, who played her character's then-boyfriend, Michael Kelso, and was 23 at the time. If not for that so-called little white non-truth, she might not have ended up making the Jackie Kelso ship sail onto a romantic island of marriage and babies together. Of course, there was more to the story than just that. The unlikely lovers. They played an on-again, off-again young couple on That 70s Show and got together in real life several years after the show's end. But Kunis and Kutcher didn't care for each other very much during the years they shared the screen. Kunis told Glamour in 2016, quote, "There's nothing we don't know about each other because we've known each other for so long. The ugly, the bad, the good. We went through a period where I thought he was crazy. At the height of his career, I was like, ugh, I don't like you. I don't even know you anymore. You think you're such hot shit." She added that even though they went through full friendship breakups over the years of working with and knocking each other, they always reconciled in the end. What ultimately brought them together was a mutual decision to become bedroom buddies without any romantic entanglements. Perhaps not coincidentally, both of them had starred in movies where that exact arrangement failed to work out. In 2011, Kutcher appeared in No Strings Attached, and Kunis appeared in the similarly styled rom-com Friends with Benefits the same year.
Yes. And if we would have just paid attention to how those movies turned out, we would know that we can't go into a relationship this way.
The Jailbird. One of the most memorable minor characters of That 70s Show was Leo, the pothead who works with Hyde and develops a friendship with the gang thanks to his marijuana connections. The character was played by Tommy Chong, who could have easily floated between his off-screen persona and on-screen alter ego for how similar they seemed to fans. But after regular appearances in the show's second, third, and fourth seasons, Leo disappeared from the group. His absence was the subject of a Season 5 manhunt mission, after which only a goodbye note was found. He eventually returned near the end of Season 7. In his big comeback episode, Leo explained his absence in his usual way.
Just wandering around, trying to find my place in life.
In reality, though, the reason for his time off the show was that he was actually doing time. In 2003, Chong was sentenced to 9 months in jail for selling pot pipes. Talk about being far out. The Troubled One. Actress Lisa Robin Kelly portrayed Eric Foreman's big sister Lori for the show's first 5 seasons, but her role was significantly lessened after the 3rd season. She didn't appear at all in Season 4 and only in a handful of episodes in Season 5. Thanks to her off-screen issues, though, she was completely replaced by Christina Moore in Season 6 after she decided to leave the show altogether. She would later explain her departure to ABC News by saying, "I had lost a baby. As a result of that, I lost it. I lost everything and I was abusing alcohol. With That 70s Show, I was guilty of a drinking problem and I ran." She claimed to have recovered from the troubles that sparked her departure from the show in time to make a celeb comeback, but she subsequently spiraled in the spotlight with a DWI in 2010, followed by allegations of domestic abuse in 2012, and ultimately her death from a drug overdose in 2013. Too big for his bell-bottoms. The hatchet may have been buried over the time that's passed since the group left Point Place. But when Topher Grace and Kutcher left the show, Grace's departure was a little more cutting than his co-stars. When the two announced they would not return for season 8, Kutcher came back for a couple of salutary episodes in the new season, while Grace only stopped back by the Foreman residence for the finale. Grace has claimed there's no bad blood between them and that he's still close to all of his former co-stars. But he has still been noticeably absent from major show-related events, like the cast reunion in 2016 and Kunis and Kutcher's wedding. He said he was working on both occasions, but he's also the only major cast member who's had nothing to do with Netflix's The Ranch. The show stars Kutcher alongside Danny Masterson and has featured Wilmer Valderrama, with public intentions to welcome Kunis and Laura Prepon to the guest list soon too. He was also the only one of the major cast members who was never punked by Kutcher.
Hey, I'm sorry, I just got swept away by the super good burn.
Even though he got together with the gang in 2013 to sing the theme song, he's still been the odd man out on a lot of occasions. The Devoted Wife. It may have seemed a little out of left field that Donna's parents, the Pensiatis, suddenly got a divorce and Brooke Shields came along to play her dad's new love interest in season 6. But there was a very good reason for actress Tanya Roberts to take her leave of the series.
Yeah, it was Midge's idea.
The former Bond girl reportedly left the program because of the news that her husband, screenwriter Barry Roberts, was terminally ill. She did end up coming back for a few episodes after a 3-year hiatus, so there was obviously no bad blood between her and the show's producers for her decision to take a leave of absence from the role. The Terrible Kisser. Nowadays, Joseph Gordon-Levitt is something of a big-screen powerhouse with flicks like Inception, The Dark Knight Rises, and Looper under his belt. But in the late 90s, he was still just a former child star whose biggest claim to fame was playing an ancient alien on Third Rock from the Sun. Shortly before his breakthrough role in 10 Things I Hate About You, Gordon-Levitt appeared in a Season 1 episode of That 70s Show. He played Eric's pal Buddy Morgan, who had a secret crush on him and shared a kiss with him before being turned down. That on-screen kiss is credited as being the first gay smooch on North American primetime TV, but audiences reportedly hated it. What would have been a potential recurring role was relegated to just one episode appearance. It didn't hurt Gordon-Levitt's career much, of course, but filming the scenes did leave a bad taste in his mouth. He told The Advocate that Grace was probably one of the worst kissers he's ever kissed.
Oh, look at our poor little tough guy, hurting others to ease his own pain. I think someone needs a tickle.
Grace's longtime love interest on the show, Laura Prepon, echoed the kiss diss when she said on a radio show that her Orange is the New Black co-star, Taylor Schilling, was the better kisser of the two. Talk about bad lip service. To the millions of people who watched Full House, the Tanners were about as close to the perfect American family as you could find, even with its trio of father figures and the absence of a mother for the girls. Off-screen, however, the actors who played those picture-perfect characters were far from the sunny personalities they portrayed on TV. Here are some of the strangest stories surrounding the Full House cast over the years. Talk to Me. In his 2014 memoir, Dirty Daddy, Bob Saget admitted he was the polar opposite of his perfectly clean character, Danny Tanner, when cameras weren't rolling on the set of Full House. As anyone who's heard a snippet of his stand-up routines would know, he can actually be quite crude.
This is true. I know I thought I f***ed up on television before. This is worse.
His vulgar antics made way onto the supposedly family-friendly set, too, when he thought only adult crew members were in the room and made obscene gestures at a 4-foot-tall rubber doll used as a stand-in for his TV daughters. The joke got a load of laughs until Saget realized that the monitors were playing the action everywhere and anyone could see what he was doing.
Okay, maybe I do just a little bit, but that's because when I was 5, I didn't really have any friends.
Now that's a mess not even Danny Tanner would want to clean up. Cut it out. For decades, many believed that Alanis Morissette's hit song You Oughta Know was actually about her ex-boyfriend Dave Coulier, who played Joey Gladstone on Full House. The rumors were a real surprise, considering the lyrics in the song contrasted significantly from Coulier's on-air persona. Years later, though, Coulier denied the rumors to BuzzFeed, saying, quote, "The guy in that song is a real a-hole, so I don't want to be that guy," end quote. But don't go believing Uncle Joey is completely innocent of some of the song's crimes just yet. In a Reddit AMA, Coulier also revealed that when he first heard the song on the radio, some of the lyrics sounded a little too familiar, although he was quick to clarify that the dirty movie theater thing never happened. with him at least. How rude! Jodie Sweetin, who played the sassy middle Tanner sister Stephanie, admitted in 2006 that she was once addicted to methamphetamine. She explained that her drug problem stemmed from the show coming to an end, telling Good Morning America, quote, "There is a certain sense of loss when a series ends. It is kind of hard to figure out who you are when you've lost your job at age 13, when that was basically how you identified yourself," end quote. She went on to reveal more of the gory details of her struggles with addiction in her 2010 tell-all, Unsweetened, admitting she even snorted meth at the premiere of the Olsen twins movie New York Minute in 2004. She wrote, "I was pulling off the deceit. It was hard for people to believe I was doing that much drugs. I look at photos from that event and I didn't even look strung out. Other drugs Sweetin dabbled in at the time included ecstasy and cocaine." In addition to her substance abuse issues, Sweetin's personal life was plagued by a number of failed relationships too. So far, she has been married and divorced 3 times, and her most recent divorce came in 2013 when she filed for legal separation from her husband of 1 year, Morty Coyle, with whom she has a daughter, Beatrix. Sweetin also has another daughter, Zoe, from her second marriage. Apparently, the 4th time wasn't going to be the charm either. After a blowout fight with her then-fiancé Justin Hodak, Sweetin was granted a restraining order against would-be husband number 4 when he was arrested. According to TMZ, Hodak threatened to kill himself with a 9mm pistol if she made him leave. Hodak was already a convicted felon, which means the guns were in his possession illegally. He violated the restraining order just days later by driving past Sweetin's house and was arrested again. Soon after word spread of her personal woes, Sweetin posted a pic of herself with her 2 daughters to Instagram to let everyone know this was all under control. But the drama was far from done. According to TMZ, police were again called to Sweetin's house when Hodak showed up once more but got scared off by security guards. Hodak denied being there, but it's clear Sweetin's taste in men needs to be reevaluated. Oh my Lanta. Candace Cameron viewers' openly conservative viewpoints helped establish a new career line for her on The View. However, some of her tenets have been seen as more controversial than others. In 2014, Bure came under fire for describing her role in her marriage to hockey player Valeri Bure as submissive. She'd written in her memoir, Balancing It All, "I am not a passive person, but I chose to fall into a more submissive role in our relationship because I wanted to do everything in my power to make my marriage and family work." Amid the criticism, Bure was forced to go on the defensive by arguing she was using the Bible's definition of submissive, explaining, quote, "It is meekness, it is not weakness. It is strength under control, it is bridled strength, and that's what I choose to have in my marriage," end quote. On the bright side, she's still seen as the more mainstream of the Cameron siblings, considering her brother Kirk Cameron has emerged as a full-on religious zealot who runs his own ministry and preaches about female subservience. Aw, nuts. One of the oddest question marks that resulted from the death of Heath Ledger, who overdosed on a number of prescription pills, was why his masseuse called Mary-Kate Olsen's cell phone instead of the police.
She called not once, not twice, but 3 times his very good friend, another celebrity, Mary-Kate Olsen.
The feds tried for months to get her to speak voluntarily, or else risk being subpoenaed. Nevertheless, Olsen refused to talk to the law without immunity. Ultimately, the case was closed, and Olsen's knowledge of Ledger's prescription drug use was never questioned further in an official capacity. But the stain of that secrecy has certainly stuck to her reputation ever since. You got it, dude. Netflix's sequel Fuller House might be, well, full, but one crucial member of the Tanner family has been noticeably missing: the youngest daughter, Michelle, played by Mary-Kate and Ashley Olsen.
Well, Michelle sends her love, but she's busy in New York running her fashion empire.
When news broke that they wouldn't be joining the show, many wondered why they would pass on the opportunity. Pressed at one point for an answer, Mary-Kate claimed the twins had just found out about the project and were surprised nobody spoke to them about it before, including co-star John Stamos. Stamos quickly fired back on Twitter saying, "I call bullshit." The surprisingly blunt tweet led some to wonder whether there was a feud brewing between the Olsen twins and the rest of the cast, which might explain why Stamos was so quick to cover his tracks. The next day, he tweeted, "Had a sweet talk with MK today. There are way more important things going on in the world today."
Still mad at me.
Don't worry about it, Shorty. Your Uncle Jesse has it all taken care of.
For what it's worth, the Olsens ultimately admitted they didn't want to do the show because they haven't acted in years. Anyone who has watched their most recent straight-to-DVD films will certainly understand.
The Kardashians might be the most famous family on the globe, but their public drama pales in comparison to the dark secrets they've tried to keep out of the spotlight. From Kim's love life to Kylie's lips to Khloe's baby fever, here are the dark secrets this family tried to hide. Feeling the weight. Rob Kardashian has had it tough. Days before his older sister Kim married Kanye West, Rob went off the rails tweeting about his weight. In since-deleted posts, he wrote, "So I found out I was trending for being fat. Thank you all, it really made my day." It all came to a head after he was diagnosed with diabetes in 2015 and was hospitalized for it in December 2016. TMZ reported Rob checked himself into the hospital because his condition flared up thanks to weight gain during his stressful relationship to Blac Chyna. It was a shocker since just months earlier, he told people that Chyna helped rid him of the disease, saying, "She told me that by having her cook for me, my diabetes would be gone." And it is. Faking it. Was Khloe's 7-year marriage to Lamar Odom a total sham? No, but she did fake wanting to have kids with the former NBA star. During an episode of Cocktails with Khloe, she shared they were once planning to have a family, saying, "Lamar and I wanted to conceive. We wanted to adopt, but also to foster kids." But in a recent episode of Keeping Up with the Kardashians, Khloe admitted to faking trying to get pregnant with Lamar, revealing to a fertility doctor,
"Like I was married, but I knew the circumstances weren't the healthiest, so I just kept pretending I was doing."
Lamar told Wendy Williams in 2017,
"That hurt a little bit, but I wish she didn't have to go. She could have told me. I have to say to you on TV.
On TV.
Yeah."
But Lamar wasn't exactly innocent himself. Sex, lies, and marriage. Khloe did all she could to convince everyone that her marriage to Lamar was working, revealing to her family, "I kept in hiding every time there was something going on. I would have to lie or conceal or cover up, and I'm so over it." A year after their divorce was finalized, Lamar told Us Weekly in 2017,
"I wish I could have kept my in my pants." Yeah, if there's one thing that I regret, multiple affairs with different women. It wasn't a stand-up thing to do. She didn't deserve that.
Lamar, who overdosed and nearly died in 2015, said he got an apartment in Los Angeles just so he could get high freely, out of sight from his wife, admitting, "I wasn't trying to repair my marriage, I was just trying to get high." Transformations. In Caitlyn's memoir, The Secrets of My Life, she alleges that Kris 100% knew of her gender identity crisis when they met, adding that Kris was fully aware she was on hormones for years before meeting, writing, "I told her there had been a woman inside me all my life." Kris disagrees. In an episode of Keeping Up with the Kardashians, Kris said the book was filled with lies.
Everything she says is all made up. And then all through the book, Kris knew. Kris knew before I even made love to her. I'm like, what?
Kim believes Kris and Caitlyn will probably never reconcile, telling Andy Cohen where the chance of the former lovers ever talking again ranks for her.
No, I would say 2%, and those are Kendall and Kylie.
Lips don't lie. Kylie Jenner regrets not coming clean about her lip injections at age 16. Talking with Complex, the teen star remembers giving countless interviews in which she lied about getting her lips enhanced. Kylie says she developed an insecurity about the size of her lips after a guy kissed her in middle school and complained that her lips were too thin. She said, "From then on, I just felt like I saw guys staring at my lips. I felt like no one wanted to kiss me." Kylie said she thought the best course of action was to lie, but later admitted, "These kids, my fans, I didn't want to be a bad influence. I didn't want them to think you had to get your lips done to feel good about your face. I wish I had just been honest up front." Under pressure. The fashion industry has fallen in love with Kendall Jenner, but as the model described on Keeping Up with the Kardashians in late 2016, she suffers from both panic attacks and sleep paralysis. Things became so intense that Kris recruited a therapist to coach Kendall. Kris also flew from Los Angeles to London just so Kendall would feel comfortable on a plane. Writing in an end-of-year blog post via Teen Vogue, Kendall described her use of breathwork to manage the episodes, saying, "Anxiety was a huge hurdle for me to deal with this past year, but I think I'm finally learning how to cope." Keeping up appearances. Watching Kim's fairy tale wedding, a Kardashian event, no one would suspect Kim's marriage to NBA star Kris Humphries was already falling apart. But behind closed doors, Kim had a feeling it wouldn't last long. She later told Andy Cohen,
I just thought, holy shit, I'm 30 years old. I better get this together. I better get married. It was more of that situation.
In all, the couple were married for 72 days. Kim's divorce filing not only shocked the world, but it shocked Humphries, who claims he was blindsided. He told TMZ, I'm committed to this marriage and everything this covenant represents. I love my wife and am devastated to learn she filed for divorce. I'm willing to do whatever it takes to make it work. Unfortunately, their marriage ended in a long, bitter divorce, which was finally settled in 2013 after Kim's infamous cry face. On the rocks. Scott Disick first began showing signs of extreme abuse and misbehavior in 2010. Keeping Up with the Kardashian cameras showed him seriously intoxicated and shoving a $100 bill down a waiter's throat after his drinks were cut off. Things became more and more horrifying until in 2014, while filming a Hampton spinoff, Kourtney kicked him out of their shared rental home. Scott has been to rehab 4 times, with his latest trip in the fall of 2015. Kourtney said on the Hamptons show, this behavior has been going on for years. Scott confessed to feeling lonely, saying, it's been a really hard time going from having all of you guys to having nobody. In 2017, Scott, who has 3 kids with Kourtney, doesn't appear to be getting any better. He's been spotted with countless women all over the world, including Bella Thorne, with whom he partied in France. Breakdown. Following his wife's 2016 Paris robbery, Kanye's world began to fall apart. He canceled his St. Pablo tour and checked himself in to UCLA Medical Center for help. E! News claims the star was suffering from exhaustion and sleep deprivation, but there were signs things weren't okay in the weeks leading up to his breakdown, including several onstage rants taped by fans in which he targeted Jay-Z, saying,
"Call me after the robbery, you say how you feeling. You want to know how I'm feeling, come by the house."
TMZ reported the rapper ultimately became unstable after screwing up the dosage of his medication, adding that Kanye has long suffered from psychological issues, which are controlled by the medication. Factory Girl. After taking fans on a virtual tour of the factory where her Good American denim is manufactured, Khloe found out some fans didn't exactly like what they saw, claiming she was running a sweatshop. The footage showed workers creating jeans by hand in a warehouse with unfinished floors. In one video, she's even heard warning the workers,
"Don't f it up. All the pressure's on you."
Khloe fired back, tweeting, "Watch your mouth. All make salaries and all are employed in Los Angeles. Know your info before you chime in. It means a lot to me to fight to make my denim in the US and to be employing good wages to all of my hardworking employees."
ABC's hit sitcom Modern Family has become a staple of the modern sitcom realm, enjoying the rare distinction of both critical acclaim and impressive viewership. While the cast list has grown over the years, all of the originals have remained firmly in place and have enjoyed significant career upticks as a result of their roles. Despite the fact that the show presents a happy home for all the members of the Pritchett-Dunphy tribes, though, there have been a number of behind-the-scenes moments of real-life drama surrounding the stars of Modern Family.
You have got to be kidding me.
Here's what you might not know about the stars of the long-lived series. Family dysfunction. When Ariel Winter first assumed the role of brainiac middle child Alex Dunphy on the show, she was barely into double digits in age, so she's grown up right before the public's eyes just like a lot of her co-stars. However, Winter has suffered a particularly grim off-screen life that's been buried beneath her character's quips, as she had to be emancipated from her mother at the age of 17 after an intense court custody battle over her guardianship.
It wasn't a supportive, loving home. I had a really tough time.
The young actress claimed that she was physically and emotionally abused by her mother and was placed in her sister's care during proceedings. Winter, whose familial secrets were the subject of many an expose during the course of the dramatic hearings, was ultimately granted independence from her mother as a result of the allegations.
It has been very sad for me, but at the same time, it's been much better for me emotionally and physically to be on my own and have a better, safer household.
Unwanted offspring. Actress Sofia Vergara became an overnight sensation thanks to her work in Modern Family. And while her current marriage to fellow TV star Joe Manganiello has remained relatively scandal-free, her former relationship with ex-Nick Loeb has been a bit of a thorn in her side, and other parts of her body for that matter. Loeb, to whom she was engaged until the two ended their relationship in 2014, reportedly sued Vergara to prevent her from destroying the embryos the two had created during the course of their relationship. Loeb wanted to create children of the frozen embryos and even went so far as to pen an op-ed in the New York Times supporting his purported rights to do so.
I always assumed with our agreement that we were going to agree to take these full term. It has nothing to do whether that her baby or a baby. Lives were already created.
However, Vergara's camp asserted she had no intentions of destroying the embryos, but to keep them frozen in perpetuity and countersued to ensure he'd be unable to produce the resulting children without her permission in turn. The situation was sticky, icky, and exceedingly personal for the actress to watch play out on the public forum as it did.
Shouldn't be out there, for people to give their opinion when there's nothing to talk about.
The Kid Switch. Although Aubrey Anderson Emmons has portrayed the pint-sized sass monster Lily Pritchett Tucker since Modern Family's third season, baby Lily was originally portrayed by twins Ella and Jaden Hiller. But the Hiller twins' parents took them out of the spotlight almost as quickly as they were thrust into it because the two hated the gig. Their mother Michelle told Woman's Day, halfway through season 2, their personalities had started to develop, and it was really clear to us that they weren't enjoying their time on set. So we told the producers the girls wouldn't be coming back. They tried to get us to change our mind, and they offered us better and better terms. Those better terms, they revealed, included a massive $34,000 an episode raise, but the Hiller parents would not be deterred from putting their little ones into retirement early.
That was only a matter of time.
Surviving an assault. In 2014, actress Sarah Hyland, who portrays the oft-ditzy eldest child Haley Dunphy, had to file for a restraining order against her real-life ex-boyfriend Matthew Prokop after allegedly suffering verbal and physical abuse that made her fearful for her life and the life of her dog, whom he threatened. Hyland reportedly sought help from her on-screen mother, actress Julie Bowen, although Bowen would later downplay her role in ending the toxic relationship by telling the Huffington Post, "I didn't do anything special at all. Nothing that you wouldn't do for anybody who's going through a breakup. It wasn't anything you wouldn't do if somebody called you up and said, 'Hey man, I'm going through a tough time.' You jump in." Hyland was ultimately granted a permanent restraining order against her ex-boyfriend. Unfortunately, it wasn't the first time Hyland would be left shaken up by an assault. Earlier in 2014, she was indecently grabbed by a man who said he wanted to take a picture with her during production of the show in Sydney, Australia, an incident which led to her attacker's arrest and left the star visibly shaken, according to reports.
People have to go through things in order to become the person that they are today. And that's that.
Serious health scares. In addition to the familial and relationship issues that have plagued some members of the cast, they've also had to grapple with some legitimate health scares that can and may affect them for the rest of their lives. Bowen, for example, has worn a pacemaker for decades as a result of a lifelong heart condition. She revealed to More Magazine that she was diagnosed with a condition that causes her heart to beat a bit too slowly, so her doctors installed a pacemaker to keep her ticker functioning properly. The actress admitted to having a big crying fit over being fitted with a device that's for old people, but she's since come to terms with her reality, which includes going back under the knife every 7 years to have the device replaced. Additionally, Sarah Hyland has grappled with a serious kidney condition called kidney dysplasia for most of her youth and experienced severe pain on the set during the early seasons. She told ABC News, "I would be in a lot of pain a lot of the time. If I didn't get like 12 hours of sleep, it felt like none at all. If you're sick, you still go to work. And in between takes, you sit down or you lay your head down or something."
When Haley walks up the stairs, that's like my workout for the week.
To avoid being stuck on dialysis for the rest of her life, Hyland sought out a donor for a kidney transplant in 2012, and the donor of her life-saving organ was none other than her own father. She has since revealed that public comments about her thin frame are especially difficult for the actress to remain silent about, given the gravity of her health concerns and how it continues to impact her body. Last but not least, Jesse Tyler Ferguson, whose on-screen alter ego Mitchell Pritchett has arrived as a voice of both reason and snark, overcame a skin cancer scare in 2015 that required facial surgery. He told ABC News, "I had to have a piece of skin taken out of my cheek. It was nothing serious, there was no life-threatening thing that happened, but it was a little scary. Having to do something on my face was very scary. My face is my livelihood in this business. It was overwhelming." Ferguson shared a post-surgical image of his treatment and teased that the makeup team for Modern Family would have their hands full with his visible incision. So clearly his spirit never wavered, and he has since made a full recovery.
Everybody Loves Raymond is one of the most successful sitcoms of all time. It was a ratings juggernaut for CBS, has generated 6 international spin-offs, and catapulted the careers of several members of the cast. But as with any Hollywood success story, there's always a darker side to the glitz and glamour. These are the secrets that one of America's favorite sitcom families tried to hide. Salary standoff.
In 2003, Ray Romano negotiated a one-year deal that made him the highest-paid actor on television, earning $1.8 million per episode. As the star of the show, Romano had always been paid much more than the rest of the cast. But in light of his record-breaking Season 8 raise, the rest of the cast, particularly Brad Garrett, seized on an opportunity to renegotiate their own contracts. What happened was Garrett refused to show up for the taping of the first episode of the season and demanded a raise, according to the Washington Post. Patricia Heaton, who played Ray's wife, quote, called out sick, and both Doris Roberts and Peter Boyle, Romano's TV mom and dad, followed her lead. The message was clear, but Garrett also made it a point to say that there was no ill will toward Romano from the rest of the cast.
My wallet is so big because forgot to pay the rest of the cast.
The network quickly came to the bargaining table and offered raises to the cast, as well as lucrative back-end deals that cut them in on syndication profits worth an estimated $20 million per actor. Unpaid wages. Even though she played the perpetually overworked and underappreciated matriarch of the Barone household, Patricia Heaton apparently didn't see the irony in allegedly requiring her part-time assistant to work more hours than she was supposed to.
I work very hard to keep the house up and running. And I guess I feel, kind of unappreciated.
According to TMZ, Heaton's ex-assistant, Jennifer Lee, filed a lawsuit in 2009 seeking unpaid wages in the amount of $7,425, plus overtime and additional expenses. Lee claims Heaton fired her after inquiring about the unpaid wages, and also alleges that she was told by Heaton that her child was becoming a problem because of the work schedule. It's unclear what ultimately happened with the lawsuit, but if any of Lee's claims are even remotely true, it would be pretty bad considering that $20 million syndication bonus the actress was earning. Loss of a cast member. In a shock to both his real family and TV family alike, Sawyer Sweeten, who played Jeffrey Barone on the show, killed himself while visiting family in Texas in April of 2015. In a statement given to People, Sawyer's parents stressed that their son did not suffer from textbook depression and that he was happy, upbeat, and loving. His mother, Elizabeth, elaborated in an interview with Larry King.
Over the course of those 8 days, if he felt, suicidal, and both times, I had asked him and his dad had asked him, and both times he said no.
But during a later appearance on the Dr. Oz show, both Sawyer's twin brother, Sullivan, and his mother shed some additional light on Sawyer's struggles.
We both definitely enjoyed being on the show. I think it was afterwards when we realized how much school we missed and how little we got to socialize with other kids.
The toxicology screening revealed that Sawyer had marijuana in his system at the time of his death, and his cousin, Jacqueline Steins, came forward to speculate that the teen had likely suffered from depression. Steins told Radar Online, "There is a history of depression in the family, all through. Many of them are on medication for depression." The secret divorce. In Brad Garrett's memoir, When the Balls Drop, he couldn't be more candid about his divorce, particularly the alimony payments, which he likens to paying for the lease on a car after turning it in, while someone else is driving it. But while he and his wife's legal separation was going down, neither one uttered a word about it in public.
It's all for the best. I'm much happier now than I used to be.
According to USA Today, Garrett and his ex-wife, Jill Diven, even kept the secret from their own families until just days before the news of their split hit the press. Managing to completely avoid any tabloid interference, Garrett and Diven each maintain that there is no ill will between them. Garrett said, "Our number one focus is our kids and parenting. We will always be friends because we will never be single parents. We will always be two parents." That's a nice sentiment, especially for the kids, although Garrett almost never stops joking how much money the divorce cost him.
Lost a house, a couple cars. Been divorced.
Improper theater conduct. Though comedy veteran Fred Willard didn't have a huge part on the show, he made his role as Robert Barone's father-in-law memorable, racking up 3 Emmy Awards in only 14 total appearances. And that's why his arrest in an adult theater in 2012 makes seeing him in Raymond reruns that much more embarrassing.
Hey, what happened?
According to TMZ, Willard was caught touching himself inappropriately when the LAPD entered the Tiki Theater for a routine anti-prostitution enforcement check. And although Willard and the theater manager continually maintained the actor's innocence, Willard eventually entered and completed a diversion program so that he could avoid a public lewdness trial, according to CBS News. The comedy legend took the whole incident in stride, and he even seemed like he was willing to talk about it publicly, like during his appearance on Late Night with Jimmy Fallon.
It's the last time I'm going to listen to my wife when she says, why don't you go out and see a movie?
For those who grew up watching Bayside High School's Cool Crew, plus Screech, Zach Morris was the ultimate authority on leaving button-up shirts open and rocking rad sneakers. Meanwhile, Kelly, Jesse, and Lisa were Girl Squad goals before that was even a thing, and AC Slater proved it's hip for guys to do ballet. Behind the scenes, though, the cast has dealt with troubles a lot worse than the ones listed in the theme song.
If the teacher pops a test, I know I'm in a mess, and my dog ate all my homework last night.
Prepare to have your childhood ruined with these dark secrets that haunted the cast of Saved by the Bell. Mr. Belding would not approve of any of this. Zoinks! Dustin Diamond was hardly the innocent, doe-eyed dude he portrayed on TV. The actor behind Screech was sentenced to jail for 4 months in 2015 after he was convicted of concealing a weapon and disorderly conduct after stabbing someone during a Christmas Day bar brawl. Diamond claimed he was defending his girlfriend after she was insulted and assaulted, and the victim's wounds were reportedly not serious.
It's not like what you see on TV, I'll tell you that.
Diamond did a second stretch behind bars in the spring of 2016 after allegedly violating his parole. You pig. Jesse Spano spent a lot of time schooling AC Slater on the proper treatment of women, but it looks like his real-life counterpart should have been taking notes. Mario Lopez was accused of sexual assault not once, but twice during the show's prime. In 1993, an 18-year-old girl claimed she was date-raped by Mario Lopez, and a second victim emerged shortly after the first allegations were made public. Prosecutors dismissed the claims for lack of evidence, but in Dustin Diamond's explosive tell-all behind the bell, he said NPC execs paid the accuser to keep her mouth shut, and that Lopez often displayed aggressive sexual behavior on the set and didn't take no for an answer. Of course, two can play at the memoir mudslinging game, and Lopez dished his own pile of dirt on his former co-star in his book, Just Between Us, writing that Diamond displayed some lewd and crude behavior himself, like taking Polaroid pictures of his nether regions on set.
And I got along with Dustin too. I was probably the only one that really I was really cool with them. And he was always a little quirky, and but because he was a couple years younger. But at that time, when you're a teenager, it's a big difference.
Perhaps that was just an indication of things to come. Shortly after the Saved by the Bell spin-off spun out, Diamond capitalized on the craze one last time for a 2006 sex tape he starred in and directed, with the unfortunate title, Screeched, Saved by the Smell. Yuck. Hot hookups. The young love of Kelly and Zach might have been series canon, but behind the scenes, the exchanges of ardor were a bit more complicated. Mark Paul Gosselaar himself once admitted that most of the cast members dated one another throughout the filming process and that it became a bit incestuous. He was first romantically linked to the actress who played Lisa, Lark Voorhees, for 3 years, no less, even while his on-screen interest was Tiffany Amber Thiessen's character, Kelly. According to Diamond's version of the story, both Gosselaar and Lopez had dealings with all 3 of their female co-stars at some point or another. He wrote in his book, quote, "If Kelly was interested in Slater 1 week, then backstage there was a lot going between them in Mario's room. Then if Jesse kisses Zach, then Elizabeth Berkley is going in Mark Paul's room." End quote. Lopez admitted in his biography that he definitely cheated on co-star Tiffany Amber Thiessen when they were together. He wrote, quote, "There was so much beauty everywhere and I had so much affection to share." End quote. Did we say yuck once already? Turtle smash. Those faithful to the Lisa Turtle school of sass might be sad to know that the actress has been mired with many personal issues in her post-Saved by the Bell days. Lark Voorhees publicly battled with her mother after her mom revealed that Lark was diagnosed with bipolar disorder, which the actress denied. After she eloped with music producer Jimmy Green in Las Vegas, her mom filed for a restraining order against him for being a known gang affiliate and threatening her safety. Voorhees defended Green in a confusing interview, but ultimately filed for divorce from him after a few months. After the divorce, she later blasted her ex on Instagram for losing his job and violating a restraining order. The post was deleted and she blamed hackers for it. For what it's worth, she also accused hackers of being responsible for posts claiming she had lupus, for slamming Bill Cosby, and for bolstering Diamond's written claims that her ex-fiancé Martin Lawrence was abusive to her. Hey Preppy. In another one of Dustin Diamond's shocking book reveals, which inspired Lifetime's unauthorized Saved by the Bell story movie, he not only accused his co-stars of regularly smoking marijuana in their dressing rooms, but he also insinuated that Mark Paul Gosselaar used performance-enhancing drugs to get buff before Saved by the Bell, the college years commenced filming. Diamond wrote, quote, "He suddenly exploded with manliness, loading 25 pounds of muscle on his once scrawny frame in, about a month." End quote. Screech shutout. After throwing so many of his co-stars under the bus, Diamond recanted some of the words in his book, saying that it was largely ghost-written and he was manipulated by his publisher. It may have been too little too late, because he was noticeably not involved with either of the major cast reunions that took place over the years.
I actually don't have a hard time doing this for some reason.
The book was ultimately panned by several of his co-stars as a negative and unrealistic look at their shared history.
It is.
I know everybody.
That I
from
must
the
say.
show.
It's like everything that I've heard about his book is it is negative, and I don't remember those things.
Lopez, however, stayed true to being a Diamond apologist and interviewed his former co-star himself about his arrest and book, telling Screech to his face that it didn't exactly paint a flattering picture of his fellow castmates. Diamond agreed, saying that it was fabricated by publishers and that he wanted to put everything behind him. He also publicly apologized to his former co-stars in November 2016.
I will say, guys, I think you're fantastic. Working with you has been just one of the icons of my life, and I'm sorry that this has taken advantage of me, the book and other situations I'm sure we'll talk about here, but I'm sure that you've experienced downfalls as well in your time, and I'm still loving you guys.
NCIS is one of the most successful series on network television right now, as the show has dominated TV ratings for years. And while its cast might seem squeaky clean on screen, it doesn't take too much digging to unearth some dark secrets. Here's what you might not know about the cast of NCIS. Tapping out. At the end of NCIS's second season, the show shockingly killed off one of its main characters, Special Agent Kate Todd. But it turns out that's exactly what actress Sasha Alexander wanted. NCIS creator and then showrunner Donald Bellisario told the Chicago Tribune, "Sasha came in with tears in her eyes. She said, 'I just can't work this hard. It's a hard show to make. We work very long hours, and Sasha just didn't feel like she was physically up to that kind of time and commitment.' Despite leaving what would become a cultural phenomenon, Alexander had no regrets about walking away. She told TV Guide, 'People don't realize that on a network show, you make 24 episodes a year. That's 10.5 months a year, 17 hours a day. It's hardcore. I really firmly believe in my heart that I would not be where I am today, happily married with 2 kids, doing things creatively that I want if I had stayed.'" Cut and run. One person whose departure was not anticipated was Cote de Pablo, who played fan-favorite Special Agent Ziva David for 8 seasons. She quit the show in 2013, mere days before filming on the drama's 11th season began, shocking both her fans and co-stars alike. NCIS actor David McCallum didn't mince words about de Pablo's sudden departure when he told Digital Spy, "It was frustration and anger that someone should just walk out on us. I just don't understand how a leading lady in a show that's worldwide, who ostensibly wants to have a career as an actress, suddenly walks away from such a gem and just vanishes a couple days before we start production." Polly Perrette echoed that statement, telling E! News, "It was huge news to us. I found out literally 20 minutes before it was released in the press. But we love her. She's our friend. She had a personal decision to make. No one wanted her to leave. There was no drama. There really isn't much to tell." Meanwhile, Perrette also seemed to throw some subtle shade on her former co-star by wearing a shirt that said, "I love my job," before tweeting the same message. De Pablo later revealed the reason for her decision to leave, saying,
"Because of, political things and scripts not being good enough."
Bad Blood. The show's intense schedule and long hours also took a toll on the relationship between Bellisario and the series' biggest star, Mark Harmon. According to TV Guide, the actor had reportedly grown tired and frustrated with the longtime producer's chaotic management style and his effort to micromanage the cast. This culminated in months of feuding between the two, and Bellisario was ultimately forced out. He kept his executive producer title when he stepped down, but effectively lost all control of the hit show he'd helped create. Wow. It wasn't the only power struggle Harmon had been engaged in, however. Custody battle. Back in the 1980s, Harmon attempted to gain permanent custody of his then 12-year-old nephew Sam. The actor built a case with his wife, Pam Dauber, on the grounds that his estranged sister, Kristen Nelson, was addicted to prescription drugs and therefore an unfit parent. After a long legal battle, the former West Wing star dropped the bid after Nelson completed a rehab program in June 1987. However, there may have been more to the story. Around that time, Nelson's defense reportedly made a move to potentially target Dauber for alleged cocaine use while working on Mork and Mindy. Dauber told the court that any such testimony would be a lie, but Harmon reportedly initiated settlement talks midway through his wife's testimony. Sam returned to his mother and Harmon was granted visitation rights. The legal settlement reportedly did not resolve the family tension, which continued until 2017 when a source told Radar Online that the siblings finally worked through their issues. Troubled home front. Polly Perrette is best known as the lovable, goth-chic forensic scientist Abby Shudo. Not unlike her character, the actress has faced adversity and heartache throughout her life. Her first marriage to Francis Coyote Shivers, a Canadian DJ, was an emotionally and physically abusive nightmare that ended in a contentious divorce after a 2-year separation in 2006. To strengthen her case and stop the cycle of abuse, Perrette teamed up with Shivers' first ex-wife and a former girlfriend. All 3 women allegedly endured similar harassment from Shivers, including stalking, computer hacking, threats, vandalism, intentional infliction of emotional distress, and even assault. She told Fox News, "Because of my fear of him, I left. I grabbed my 2 dogs, my cat, and my laptop, and I ran. My whole goal was to be able to work in television and film and maintain a normal life, never be in a tabloid. I was clean as snow, and now there's this guy, and I find myself in the middle of a horror movie I didn't audition for." Perrette was ultimately granted a restraining order against her ex, and Shivers was sentenced to 90 days in jail for violating that restraining order in 2013 by attempting to contact Perrette online. Criminal record. Best known as the ever-charming and funny Special Agent Tony DiNozzo, Michael Weatherly doesn't seem like the type to ruffle feathers, but he was once busted for drinking and driving. According to TMZ, the actor was stopped by Los Angeles police for speeding in November 2015, but ended up being arrested and booked on DUI charges. Weatherly pleaded no contest and earned 3 years probation and mandatory participation in an alcohol program as a result. Weatherly made the decision to leave NCIS shortly after his sentencing, tweeting, "I will miss the amazing crew and cast who are like family to me, and to the fans all over the world, thank you, it's been a fantastic ride." That was an interesting choice of words considering what got him into this mess in the first place.
Oh, that's good. That's good. Where'd he come up with that one?
It's been nearly 30 years since the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air flip-turned the world of sitcoms upside down. While Will Smith has since adopted a wide range of roles, he might have gotten some good training in drama on the set of this hit TV show. Here are the dark secrets of the cast of Fresh Prince. Will Smith was not chillin' out, maxing, relaxing, all cool when he signed on to star in The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. He was staring down some pretty serious IRS debt from his career as a rapper alongside DJ Jazzy Jeff. In a 2018 episode of YouTube Storytime, Smith admitted that he'd spent all of his money on exorbitant purchases like expensive cars and fancy clothes after the duo's album, He's the DJ, I'm the Rapper, went triple platinum and earned a Grammy. But his follow-up effort flopped, which didn't really help bolster his dwindling bank account.
I spent all my money, and I didn't forget, but I didn't pay the IRS.
At the time, Smith owed the IRS a whopping $2.8 million. Opportunity fell into Smith's lap when he met Fresh Prince producer Benny Medina while hanging out on the set of the Arsenio Hall show, and later had an impromptu audition during a party at Quincy Jones's house. Smith landed the lead, but the IRS took 70% of his Fresh Prince paycheck for the next 3 years. Aunt Vivian, who served as the Fresh Prince's beloved sympathetic matriarch, is a woman with many facets. 2, to be exact. Janet Hubert played the role during the sitcom's first 3 seasons, but was fired in 1993 and replaced by Daphne Maxwell Reid. The firing apparently had less to do with Hubert's rumoured on-set feuds and more to do with a dispute with network executives, who reportedly had, quote, some sort of vendetta against her, per Hubert's interview with Jet at the time. Years later, in 2013, the actress opened up to The Grio about the real reason she was recast, claiming NBC was unwilling to negotiate her ultra-restrictive contract. She said, "It was a negotiation that should have come back like most do. We were a very successful show and I felt like I was an integral part of that and felt valuable, but you cannot feel valuable in Hollywood." Hubert sued the network and Will Smith for allegedly creating a hostile work environment during her pregnancy pregnancy, according to the New York Daily News. This led to long-running rumors that NBC fired Hubert because of her pregnancy, but it was written into her final season with the show.
Vivian!
Janet Hubert's feud with Will Smith is so intense that it outlived the series by literal decades. Hubert blamed her 1993 contract dispute on Smith, telling Jet, "Smith probably is responsible for my firing. He has a lot of clout. He has gotten me fired from the show, and now he is trying to snatch my career away from me." In an earlier interview with an Atlanta radio station, Smith said that Hubert wanted the series to be the Aunt Viv of Bel-Air show. He added, "No matter what, to her, I'm just the Antichrist." In addition to calling Smith an egomaniac nearly 2 decades later, Hubert said in 2009 that both Smith and Alfonso Ribeiro, who played Carlton Banks, destroyed her career with untruths, presumably about her bad attitude. She even reportedly begged Smith and his manager to clear her name. While the jury is still out on that, Smith did call Hubert brilliant and a really powerful artist in an interview with BBC Radio 1 Extra in 2016. Janet Hubert undoubtedly had her issues with Will Smith, but she might actually have more beef with her on-screen son, and for pretty good reason. Alfonso Ribeiro, who went from dancing as Carlton Banks to literally winning Dancing with the Stars in 2014, went after his TV mom with a scathing comedy set in 2009. In a since-deleted video of the stand-up performance unearthed by Perez Hilton, Ribeiro claimed Hubert was crazy and went nuts during her time on Fresh Prince. Even though he admitted he wasn't legally, quote, allowed to talk about it, the actor dished, "There were days when we were all on the set and she would literally go off on people, and they got to a point by the time the second season came around where we're like, this is unacceptable. We felt like when we were doing the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air that we were a family. She, at that point, ruined that, and she made it very difficult for us to work." This may have been what led to Hubert's claims about Smith and Ribeiro's untruths. Considering the show aired during an era before text message receipts and cell phone cameras, we'll probably never know the exact truth of the matter.
You hate me, don't you?
Carlton was one of the Fresh Prince's most iconic characters, and he certainly wouldn't have had the same magic if he was portrayed by anyone other than Ribeiro. But that was almost exactly what happened. Ribeiro was actually fired before he really got started. In an interview with Digital Spy in 2017, the actor admitted that he landed the role after an audition, but after filming the pilot, producers decided that Carlton should be recast. It's almost inconceivable, but they did eventually come to their senses. Ribeiro said, "There was a moment where essentially I was hired and rehired. You may look at it that way. There was a large chance that the Carlton character would have been played by somebody else, but luckily enough, the decision was made to continue to have me do it. And I guess the rest is history." History indeed. It takes someone very special to pull off those colourful outfits. Long before Donald Trump was tweeting from the White House, he enjoyed the most bizarrely random acting career with cameos in dozens of major motion pictures and TV shows, including Home Alone 2, Lost in New York, and The Nanny. One of these appearances was actually on The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, but the future president reportedly wreaked minor havoc on the set. Trump appeared in the 1994 episode For Sale by Owner, and according to an anonymous crew member who spoke to Newsweek, the businessman was apparently pretty peeved about something that probably had to do with the script. Earlier that day, he'd reportedly expressed concern to executive producer Gary H. Miller that his lines weren't funny enough. Miller claimed he'd never give Trump advice about real estate, but he does know comedy and told him, quote, "Trust me, you'll get a laugh."
I like keeping a low profile.
Later, the real estate mogul allegedly ended up throwing the clipped-together pages of his script all over the floor. The anonymous crew member told Newsweek, "I started to help her pick them up, and Maples goes, 'I got them. I got them. I'm so sorry. It was such a really rude thing, the way he did it. So terrible, so disrespectful. He just wasn't pleasant." According to Business Insider, Alfonso Ribeiro sued the creators of Fortnite for allegedly copying his Carlton dance in 2018. The lawsuit claimed the dance was written into an emote called Fresh in January of that year. The emote could be purchased for around $8 or 800 V-Bucks, which meant Epic Games seemed to be making money from the actor's moves. That is, if Ribeiro actually owned them to begin with. A side-by-side comparison does show the dance moves to be nearly identical. However, according to The Hollywood Reporter, a supervisory registration specialist in the U.S. Copyright Office's Performing Arts Division later explained that Ribeiro's copyright request must be refused because his choreography was just a simple dance routine. Even so, since the dance was created for Fresh Prince, it's likely that NBC would own any related copyright if it was indeed allowed to be copyrighted. All of this boded poorly for Ribeiro's case, as well as the similar lawsuit he lobbed at Take-Two Interactive over dance moves featured in NBA 2K. According to USA Today, the actor dropped both suits in March 2019. There's a reason Will Smith was able to pull out a tear-jerking performance in the Season 4 episode Papa's Got a Brand New Excuse.
How come you don't want me, man?
He felt intimately acquainted with disappointing father figures. While it appeared he patched things up with his dad later in life, at least according to an interview on The Graham Norton Show in 2019, the star revealed that his troubled past with an abusive father had led him and his wife to set some major boundaries, including avoiding the use of profanities with each other for over 20 years. In an episode of Jada Pinkett Smith's Facebook Watch series Red Table Talk, Will Smith recalled telling his wife,
I grew up in a household where I watched my father punch my mother in the face.
Because of that, he said he couldn't tolerate profanity and violence in his relationships. Tatiana Ali, who played Ashley Banks, had one of her most embarrassing moments, a major life milestone on set. In an interview with Us Weekly in 2018, Ali admitted she had her first real kiss on the show, but said it was, quote, terrifying. It didn't help that both Alfonso Ribeiro and Karen Parsons, her on-screen siblings, decided to come to set that day to watch it happen, even though they had nothing to do with that particular scene. Ali told the magazine, I just remember Karen Parsons, who played Hilary Banks, Karen, Alfonso, and we had our cameras. The cameras on sitcoms are like huge cameras, and I just remember them looking behind the camera. I mean, who has a first kiss like that? At the time, I wanted to die. Since then, Ali has managed to recover and seems to have a healthy attitude about romance. The actress even told HuffPost in 2013 that one-night stands were her guilty pleasure. Who would ever want to watch a sitcom starring a rapper? That's what Karen Parsons was thinking when she first heard about Fresh Prince. While speaking with NPR in 2014, the actress revealed that she'd been working as a restaurant hostess in Hollywood before landing the sitcom role, which she seriously questioned taking or even trying out for. Parsons said of her first audition, I remember my first reactions being, oh god, it's a sitcom with a rapper? Like, what's that? Regardless of her initial feelings about the show itself, she also felt like she wasn't a good fit for Hilary. The character was originally an effortlessly cool model, which made the TV star feel like trying out was ridiculous because she's, quote, not a model type. Instead of playing the role as it was written, however, Parsons gave Hilary her signature bratty attitude, which is exactly what landed her the part. But she continued to work at her day job until Fresh Prince took off, just to be safe. For years, rumors have been flying around claiming that the recurring scene in which Will's friend Jazz gets kicked out of the Banks' mansion was actually only shot once because the network wanted to save money. In truth, it was shot multiple times, just not every time the script called for it. Jeffrey A. Towns, aka DJ Jazzy Jeff, opened up about this myth surrounding Fresh Prince in an interview with HuffPost in 2015. According to the actor/DJ, budget had nothing to do with the shot. Rather, Towns eventually put his foot down because he couldn't endure the pain it caused. When I did it maybe the third or fourth time, because every time you shoot it to get a take, you probably have to do it about 40 times. Literally black and blue by the time they say, we got it. And it got so bad the last time, and I was like, I can't do this. I'm not a stuntman. I can't do it. Jeff has stayed safely behind the turntables ever since the show ended.
Very few shows are as synonymous with the 90s as Home Improvement. The hit sitcom put Tim Allen on the map and had magazine cutouts of Jonathan Taylor Thomas taped to millions of bedroom walls. The show won audiences over week after week with its family-friendly depiction of the power tool-obsessed Tim Taylor trying to raise 3 rambunctious boys with his no-nonsense wife.
Thank you, America!
But behind the scenes, there were still some pretty dark secrets. Here's what you might not know about the cast of Home Improvement. Behind bars. In 1978, Tim Allen was arrested at a Michigan airport for possession of 650 grams of cocaine. He was reportedly a well-known dealer at the time, which made him an easy target for an undercover sting operation. Despite turning informant, Allen would spend 2 years and 4 months in federal prison, which encouraged him to clean up his life and focus on his stand-up comedy career, which would ultimately land him on Home Improvement. However, the days of being in prison still haunt Allen. He told Esquire, "When I went to jail, reality hit so hard that it took my breath away, took my stance away, took my strength away. I was put in a holding cell with 20 other guys, and I just told myself I can't do this for 7.5 years. I want to kill myself." But Allen's time in prison didn't entirely scare him straight. In May 1997, during the height of Home Improvement's success, Allen was picked up going 30 miles per hour over the posted speed limit. Things went from bad to worse when Allen failed a field sobriety test and had a blood alcohol level above the legal limit. To his credit, he didn't contest the charges and entered rehab as part of his sentencing in 1998. He's spoken glowingly about Alcoholics Anonymous ever since. Bad Dad. While there's no doubt that Home Improvement rocketed Allen into Hollywood fame, it was almost as much of a career boost for Jonathan Taylor Thomas, better known as JTT in teen magazines during the 90s. But unlike Allen, Thomas became wary of the spotlight and bailed on the 8th season to prepare for college. He told People, "I'd been going non-stop since I was 8 years old. I wanted to go to school, to travel, and have a bit of a break." Thomas's on-screen mom, Patricia Richardson, was supportive at the time.
I'm sorry, Mom. I just thought that I was getting a raw deal. Well, you were.
She revealed in a Reddit AMA years later, "I think that it was very fortunate that Jonathan is so smart and well-balanced. When he left the show, he ended up going back to school and got a really good education and thought a lot about what he wanted to do with his life." Allen, on the other hand, was not happy that Thomas chose to focus on his education instead of the series. Things got so bad that Thomas even skipped the series finale after the two had a confrontation while filming a holiday episode. Of course, Allen put it more gently by telling TV Guide, "I mentioned that I was confused about the reasons for his departure. I don't think he liked that." Regretful exit. After Jonathan Taylor Thomas left the show, Patricia Richardson made the decision not to return for a 9th season, despite reportedly being offered as much as $25 million. Allen was offered $50 million to return, but he refused to do the show without Richardson. Home Improvement would tearfully end after 8 seasons, but according to an interview with Richard Karn, who played Tim's bearded assistant Al Borland, Allen had second thoughts about pulling the plug. He said, "I think immediately Tim regretted that. Sometimes you get in a kind of tunnel vision of life when you're doing this, and you don't realize how wonderful the situation is until you're outside looking back." Child star syndrome. Of the 3 child stars on Home Improvement, no one suffered the pitfalls of early fame more than Taryn Noah Smith, who played Mark, the youngest of Allen's on-screen sons. In her book, Stardom Happens, Smith's mother recalled a terrifying anecdote about her son's time on Home Improvement. In his first year, Taryn was 7 years old. We were in Santa Monica and a man grabbed my arm. Taryn was maybe 20 feet from me. He said, "Listen, I need to talk to you. I work for the FBI and the 3 boys from Home Improvement are the top target of pedophiles in the world. You can't just leave him alone. Don't ever let him out of your sight." Unfortunately, that major scare wasn't the last of it for Smith and his mom. In 2001, Smith ran away from home at the age of 17 and began a series of legal battles against his parents to gain control of his $1.5 million trust fund. To further complicate matters, that same year, Smith wed vegan chef Heidi Van Pelt, who, at age 33, was 16 years older than Smith. Van Pelt had been welcomed by Smith's family before she began encouraging him to make a move for his trust fund. Things went from bad to worse when the couple divorced in 2007. Smith's completely trashed house was foreclosed, and he'd later be arrested for DUI and drug possession in 2012. However, Smith eventually rekindled his relationship with his mother. Bad for business. Zachary Ty Bryan also experienced a series of setbacks after the show's end. Not only did he star in a terrible version of Thor, but in 2010 he sued 2 of his business partners for allegedly siphoning funds from Big Wang's, a sports bar that Bryan co-owned in Hollywood. Bryan claimed his partners used the restaurant as their own piggy bank to buy expensive cars, trips to Hawaii, and even a house in the Hollywood Hills. Brian also alleged they even used the money to open a competing restaurant. Rip-off or reboot? After Home Improvement ended, Tim Allen found commercial success with big-screen franchises like Toy Story and The Santa Claus. But what he longed for most was another small-screen sitcom. He told NBC San Diego, "I don't know why we would not do a version of the same show." Eventually, his next long-lived series, Last Man Standing, was born. He admitted, "It isn't rocket science, what I'm doing. Instead of tools, it's sporting goods and guns and ATVs and boats, and I come home to 4 women." The show has stirred up its own sort of controversy, of course, but at least he knew what formula would work for his fans. A reunion? While the cast of Home Improvement may have had their ups and downs grappling with the success of the show and its aftermath, in 2011, everyone gathered together for a happy Entertainment Weekly photo shoot with the exception of original Tool Time girl Pamela Anderson and the late Earl Hindman, who played Wilson, the next-door neighbor with the always hidden face. A few years later, Alan and Thomas would show that they officially buried the hatchet after Thomas appeared on a much-publicized episode of Last Man Standing. Meanwhile, Richard Karn has also made a cheeky cameo on Alan's new show.
It's gonna be great working with you again, buddy! Man!
And Patricia Richardson also made a cameo in 2016, which only further fueled rumors of a Home Improvement reunion down the road, despite her previous assertion that it wouldn't happen.
Do you think there'll ever be a Home Improvement reunion?
Never.
Really?
No.
With Last Man Standing's controversial cancellation announced in 2017, a revival series like Fuller House could be just the project Alan's looking for to add more power.